Derek, thank you for joining us today.
Great to be with you, Lauren. Thank you.
Yeah, so I know we kind of got started in this crazy world of LinkedIn, right? I saw an interview that you had done about Couplr, this new technology company that you've started. I'm super intrigued by it. So I appreciate you taking the time today to share more about the journey that you've taken to get this new company off the ground. But I think also importantly, hearing the why and what is this kind of space in the market that you see is missing. So why don't we start there? I'd love just to hear from you. What's a little bit about your background and how did you identify this gap in the market to get to where you are right now?
Well, like a lot of your listeners, I'm a certified financial planner. I actually still have my own RIA. So
Mm,
I've been an advisor for over 17 years now. I cut my teeth in the insurance broker dealer world, and
mm,
now I'm fully independent. And the number one problem I always saw, because there's so many advisors that wash out of this business because it's a
yeah,
tough business.
it's a tough bit,
There's
especially
a
in the beginning.
Oh my God, I have gray hair for a reason. I didn't start with gray hair. So but the number one thing I always saw was lack of lead gen.
Hmm.
And, I'm sure like a lot of your listeners, when I started, I was told to do a project 200 and cold call. We had phone clinics multiple
Yes.
times a week,
Yeah, I know.
door
Even door
knocking.
knocking, right?
I mean, so it was tough. And I did it and I did it. I hated it, but I did it and I was good enough at it where I was able to make it.
Right.
And but it always bothered me because the process just seemed so disjointed and broken, you
Mm.
know, for the advisor, because it's really kind of soul crushing. When I decided I wanted to be an advisor, I
Yeah,
I wasn't thinking about how to having to do lead gen and marketing. I was
right.
thinking about I want to help people retire and save and invest and all this
Yeah. That
stuff.
relationship building pieces of it. The
Yeah,
why, yeah.
it was so important. I think most advisors have that passion. That's what they get in. They want to help people with their money.
Right.
But the process to get clients isn't very transparent initially when you're trying to get into the business. And then once you're in, so you got to go. So that was always frustrating because it really is not a fun process for advisors. But the consumer, it's a terrible experience for the consumer too.
Yeah.
Like they're getting cold called, or maybe they put their name and their email address and how much money they have into a website. And then next thing they know, their phone is blowing up.
Yep.
It just feels bad all the way around. So I figured, okay, what if we can fix lead generation? What if we can make it better?
Hmm.
And that's where Couplr spurred. I was asking that question. That's how I came up with Couplr
Yeah.
originally.
Yeah. I think I appreciate just your honest narrative about I think the difficulty of it is to be able to get
Oh,
going and just that kind of I don't know what you want to call that kind of that mud you kind of got to get through to be able to sort of get to the other end of the really the real work, right? The work that you want to be doing and
yes.
being able to help people and support them. So tell us more about Coupler. Like what's sort of that identified gap in the market and how are you trying to solve that initial challenge?
Well, I'll start really high level and then boil it down as we go. So ultimately, we're on a mission to fix this thing we call money.
Mhm.
Okay. When we don't have great financial advice, education, and so forth, a lot of bad things can happen when we make bad financial decisions or just don't make decisions at all.
Yep,
But if we do have good guidance and education in our lives around money, a lot of great things can happen.
absolutely.
And advisors, human advice is not going away. So advisors tend to be a very big part of that for their clients and helping them realize their hopes, dreams, and goals. So we're on this mission to do that. And the opportunity is huge. We know over 100 million people a month, just in the US alone, are looking for help with their investments, their insurance, retirement planning, whatever.
Hmm.
We know that well, depending on the numbers you look at, but if you count registered reps, life agents, and so forth, you've got over 600,000 professionals just in the US.
Hmm.
There's over 4.1 million globally.
Hmm.
So you've got these great two markets that need to support each other, that need to connect.
Yep.
And Coupler was like, okay, why don't we change how people are connecting with advisors?
Hmm.
Shouldn't the consumer drive this process instead of the advisor?
Mm.
Shouldn't we be? And here's the thing: money is very personal.
It is. It's hard to talk about.
It's really hard to talk about. And so if I'm going to open up about my financial skeletons, mistakes I've made,
Right.
things I don't want to
Never-
acknowledge, how
Yep.
much money I have or don't have, if I'm going to share that with an individual, man, I better trust that person.
Yep.
And last time I checked, zip code and net worth do not determine a trusting relationship.
Absolutely.
They
Yep.
really don't. But that's what all these lead gen solutions, quote unquote, are doing is they're saying, hey,
Mhm.
we'll find the best advisor for you. Give us your zip code, email address, phone number, and how much is in your 401k.
Right, right.
Right. I'm
Because
like,
it's
well,
like
wait a minute.
baseline stuff. It's not really like deep stuff. You know what's funny? Just as a note on that, to sort of back it up, because we look at a lot of firms' websites, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everyone goes to the About Us page. Like
Yes.
they want to
Yes.
know who this person is. And it's not like the credentials are important, right? It shows like this level of okay, check in the box, right?
Totally.
Validation. They're really critical. But once you, that sort of is like you've got that check, right? So it's your entry into your entry card, if you will. But then it's about the human stuff. Like, can I relate to that person? You know, do they have a family? Do what are their hobbies? What are these kinds of like what is that connection? So to your point, I mean, it is so much more. And I think it's really easy to forget about that, especially when you're sort of passionate about doing the work, but it's that human element. So okay,
Mm-hmm.
so let's talk a little bit more about that connection and what you're trying to cultivate too.
Yeah, you're spot on. It's the human element, it's the human connection. Because if we have shared commonalities and so forth, we set the stage for trust.
Right.
You know,
That's right.
if we went to the same school or we're both dog people, we love to travel, et cetera,
Totally.
et cetera, et cetera. Like all of a sudden, oh man, this person's just like me. That's cool. You know, so the consumer feels more comfortable, right? But also the advisor's like, oh, I just got a lead. They like dogs. They like to travel. We went to the same school. Man, we got
Good.
something to talk about right
That's
off the
right.
bat.
That's
This is
right.
great. So Couplr does that. And how we're doing it differently is that we are a white label solution.
Okay.
And so, and this is really important because trust is a really important part of the process for someone getting advice and finding
Right.
an advisor. So if I'm on, you know, I could use Fidelity, for example, or Morningstar. If I'm on
Right.
that
Right.
website researching something about Roth IRAs or retirement planning or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
I'm already there. So I'm thinking about my money. That's
Right.
good. Okay.
Right.
So that
Right.
is that's already a warmer lead.
Proactively starting to find a solution.
Yeah. And we know over 100 million people a month are doing this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then, but then if there's like this call to action to say, hey, use this tool by this other non-fidelity brand, we're like, well, whoa, wait a minute. I think I like Fidelity, but what's this other thing that this other brand you're going to make me go use to find an advisor? That feels shady. I already don't really want to be here. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
gone.
Mm-hmm.
Or the tool is just too invasive because it's asking your net worth and your email address. You're like, well, wait,
Right.
like,
Right.
I don't even know if I want to go on a first date with you yet. Just hold on a second, you
Yeah,
know?
that's right. Right. I
Well,
know.
back up a
I
little.
know. It's like already down for a proposal and we haven't even had a conversation.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
like chill out. Let's hold on. So we embed in situations like that. We leverage the existing brand. That's why we're white label. So
Got
we'll
it. That
leverage
makes sense. So it's like a back
totally.
end tool.
Yeah. So
Okay.
you don't know it's not really a Fidelity tool. So I mean, we
Yeah.
want to leverage because Fidelity or any company has spent a lot of money and
Right.
time and resources driving their own brand. So why would they
Right.
want to detract from that? They don't.
Makes sense.
And then so we take that warm traffic and then we ask the consumer to go through a brief quiz, longer than
Keyword
anything else
brief.
that's really out
Yes.
there. I mean,
Yes.
I timed my wife doing it. I stood behind her and just hovered, and it took her just over 3 minutes.
Oh my gosh. That's like music to my ears for folks when you think about it. If someone's searching online, they don't have a lot of time, right? That they can just pop through it. So
Real quick.
you always have drop off at the beginning, right? So
You
and if you're
always
gonna
will.
give 20 question survey, you're like, oh my gosh. So okay.
Yeah. So this one, it's lightning fast, it's quick, and it's long enough to be like, okay, there's some value here, but
Right.
it's not too long to be like, I'm out, you
Yes.
know?
Yes.
And then, but what's cool is that we don't ask the consumer to give us a name, an email address, what their income is, any of that stuff. We
Okay.
want, like, we actually, Bumble has a really good approach. If you know about the Bumble dating app,
Yes, yes.
we
It's
want to make the,
before my time though, so
yeah,
my
see, I
husband for
signed
all
up for
that,
all
but
these things.
I am familiar, so
Yeah, I had to get permission from my wife because I signed up for all of the dating services.
well, you're getting the user experience,
I'm
right?
getting the user
So funny.
experience.
Okay.
So we empower the consumer to make that first move. So then they get matched now based on a variety of human elements with the top advisors at that institution. So
Mhm.
not 100 that I have to try to sift through, because once I get over a couple, 3, 4, 5 choices, I'm gone anyways, because that's too many for me to think about.
Yes,
That's
yes.
actually based on something called the paradox of choice. That's science that's been written about previously. And now the consumer can vet their advisors. They get to see the profile. Who is this advisor? What are their specialties? What are their credentials? Let me see their what it's called, disclosures,
Yes.
broker check.
Wait,
What are
wait. So consumer comes in, they answer the questions, and then they're kind of fed a list of advisors. Just want to make
they're
sure.
instantly matched with only a top 3 or so advisors at that firm.
Okay, okay. So just to back up one step, this white labeling tool is really for a firm or for a company like a Fidelity, for example, or I don't know if that would be the right kind of fit, but that would have kind of a volume, right,
It
of
needs
advisors.
volume. Yep,
Yep.
it needs volume at this point.
Okay.
Technically, we could probably serve a firm as small as with 7 advisors,
Okay. Okay. Just to really narrow it. Yeah, that makes
but
sense though, right? They're not
but you
having
need
to
to have
read through
consumer
every
traffic.
bio and yep. Okay. So sorry. So
The,
we'll swing back to the narrow. Now
yeah,
we've
yeah, yeah.
on 3 or so advisors.
But and so then the consumer gets to look at them. Why was I matched with them? Who is this person? Who are they personally and professionally? Let
Yep.
me check them out on social, their website,
Yep.
all of these things. Because as a consumer, if you're telling me I'm connecting with these top matches for these different human elements, I already feel better about it. I feel like, okay, wow, like, all right, we both like to surf, we both travel, dog
Right.
people,
Right.
whatever. Um, so then within 10 minutes or so, you can do your due diligence as a consumer.
Yep. It helps.
And
It's time saving.
major time savings. We've really queued it up well. And then when the consumer is ready,
Hmm.
they will initiate contact with the advisor or advisors they wanted to speak with about working together.
Got it.
The
Okay.
advisor does not get any access to these leads until the consumer initiates contact.
Okay. So, can you talk about how the consumer actually initiates contact?
So, I mean, there's different ways because we want to empower the advisor to have like their contact info and stuff like that there. But the main call to action that we ask for is to use our instant messaging feature, which is FINRA compliant.
Got it.
And that's how they initiate contact with the advisor.
Got
You
it.
know, hey,
Okay.
Bob, I got matched with you. I really like that we went to the same school and we both love dogs. I
Yep.
need help with this thing. I'd like to find a time to meet with you.
Okay. So that's how, and then at that point of conversation is when they would be passing over their contact information.
Only up to them. They don't even have to give their contact info because we let the advisor respond to the
I
DM and
see.
say, hey,
Oh, it's
here's my
very
email.
trust focused then.
Very trust focused. We do
Okay.
not want the consumer to ever feel like they're going to start getting spammed or bombarded or have to give anything away. So it's totally up to the consumer.
Yep.
But what happens when we do this? And it's a good match. The advisor now has a warm inbound lead that they know
Mhm.
things about, like, hey, this consumer needs help with retirement planning. They've been thinking about it for 3 months. They
Yep.
want to get it
Yep.
taken care of in the next 7 days, and they love dogs.
Yep.
Oh, okay, cool. So Bob gets this warm inbound lead. And unless Bob is really bad at his sales process,
Hmm.
how can you not close that lead now?
Yeah, you already have connection, you've got starting points, you know something about them that, is of interest and they've already been narrowed down. Okay. So then that's the handing off this qualified lead. Then how about on the advisor's end? How is this platform, the white label piece, getting set up to make sure that the inputs are there a bunch of fields or forms that the advisor has to fill out in order to do the appropriate matching? What does that kind of onboarding look like on the firm's end?
Very easy onboarding. We work directly with the enterprise. That's who we partner with initially.
Hmm.
They will give us a list of whatever advisors they want in part of this program. Bulk upload, each advisor gets an invite email.
Yeah.
They have to complete a very similar quiz for matching purposes because of how our
Mhm.
algorithm works.
Got
and
it.
then a few minutes on setting up their bio, headshot, tell us more about you, links,
Got
all that kind of stuff. And they're not allowed to let that bio go live until they've completed everything, including disclosures.
God, that must be a fun bio to put together. I mean, how have you guys been adding more and more details? How have you kind of narrowed down what goes into this matching process?
So we have, it's pretty cool. There's a lot of different things that we're asking about, like, what would you do on a free night off? We have a
Right.
question about that, how do you
Unexpected.
feel
Yeah.
about international travel?
Hmm.
So there's a lot of things. We ask almost nothing financial other than what is the consumer looking for. We also ask the advisor, like, what are services you primarily help clients with,
Yeah.
things of that nature. Do you work only remotely, or will you work in person, or do you care?
Right.
A lot of different elements around that, but we're connecting on the human level. That's what we're all wired to connect that way
Right.
anyways.
So how did you even come up with these questions? Did you survey different folks? Did you work with a sort of expert that really knows survey questions, if that's sort of the right term?
It
So,
was a couple things. So part of it was my own research into the science of interpersonal trust. So we have
right.
three different, our tool is based on three different types of science that we've actually baked into it,
Yeah.
which has never been done before, which is kind of cool. But so part of it was on my research and figuring out what are the types of personality and human connection questions we should be asking. But
Right.
also one of our founders, Megan Lertz, she has
Mm-hmm.
her PhD in behavioral financial planning.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so she's like, this is
Oh, this is
her
totally up her
space.
alley. She
Yeah.
loves this stuff. She and I nerd out on it probably more than we should, but it's great stuff. And so we work together. We're actually, we're just even working on it today. So it's really fun to figure out what we should be asking both sides, why that's important, what part of the personality box that ticks off, and then how are we connecting people based on all this.
Got it. Oh my goodness. That is a really fun project. I mean,
It's
more
super
than a
fun.
project. I'm sure it's like ever evolving. Like we always say websites are ever evolving. I'm sure this is probably it.
Oh, it totally is. Like marketing and websites, it's part art, part science,
Yep.
right? So
Yep.
there's a lot that goes to it, and is it ever evolving? One of the things we're really excited about is that we actually don't know when and why people make financial decisions. It's
Hmm.
never been found out. It's never been learned.
I feel
We're
like
actually,
that's actually quite bold to say, because I feel like there's always the someone makes a financial decision when X point happens, right? There's some big life transition. So tell me more about this, because I feel like that's definitely something different than kind of the status quo. So
there are a lot of like knee-jerk reaction solutions that happen, right?
hmm.
Like, oh, I just had a kid last week. I should probably get life insurance. Oh
Right,
crap, I'm gonna go do that.
right.
But this is one of the other sciences I mentioned, is there's something called the trans theoretical model of change.
Hmm.
And that was actually originally done in the 70s to understand why people quit smoking and
Hmm.
when they quit smoking. So we've just applied that to this space, and to find out, like, okay, like I'm thinking, like, I know, like, we're expecting a kid and it's 6 months from now. So I'm thinking about it. Maybe I went to a life insurance company's website to learn a little bit more, but I'm not ready yet.
Right, right.
And so now we can start to track this process and change of, like, well, this consumer's hit this website 5 times now
Yep,
over this time frame. Now they eventually got something done.
yep.
And we just don't know that type of stuff yet. And we're going to be able to learn it at scale for a variety of different things. And then what we're eventually going to do is, because we are an AI company, is we'll start training some AI models
Right.
where we can get even better and more predictive to help people with this type of stuff.
Oh, that's fascinating. That's oh, so fun. What a great space to
It's
be in.
pretty cool.
It is super cool. Also, with all of the changes that have happened in the last few years, with so much M&A activity, right? Um, I myself as a consumer, when I go to other firms' website and you go to the team page, and it's like, oh my gosh, where do I even start? It's like you can just keep scrolling. There's so many people. And then it's like, do I go by location? You don't want to read through every bio. Maybe you're lucky if you get through three of them.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a really interesting way of trying to kind of do that matchmaking, if you will, between the consumer and the advisor. So,
We
uh,
think so, and we're pretty excited about where it's going. We'll see what happens, but it's pretty awesome. We're doing it for the right reasons, which is great. People
oh
people need
man,
to connect for the right reasons.
yeah, that's important. Oh my goodness, I appreciate you sharing more. I know we're about at the top of our time here, but anything else that you think would be good to share more about this platform or kind of what's coming up next for it?
Yeah, I think definitely go to our websites is Couplr.ai,
Mhm.
Couplr.ai, and you can sign up for our newsletter on there. And then we've actually published some articles that really dive into the science and the reasons behind our solution.
Yep.
And then you can also even, if you're an enterprise, listening, you can sign up for a demo from there as well, from
Great.
us. But
Great.
do that. And if you want, follow me on LinkedIn just because I'm pretty darn active on there.
Yeah, even hearing about this research too, I would even think as a just an advisor, right? Looking to make connections, being able to understand that deeper, or anyone, frankly, that's in sales, it feels like it would be good information to have to be able to bridge those relationships. So,
No
uh,
question. Because I mean, as you know, you service a ton of advisors. Very few advisors signed up as an advisor to become a marketer,
mhm. Yeah.
right? They want to be an advisor. They need help with all the marketing stuff and the lead gen and all that. But if they can learn those insights so they can work with people like you to make their website better or whatever, man, everybody wins.
Yeah, it's a win-win, and it is about that human connection as you talked about earlier. So,
100%.
oh my goodness. Well, Derek, thanks so much for your time today. We'll make sure to include links below to Couplr and some of the other pieces that you had mentioned. Again, I'm excited to see this roll out and the learnings that come from it.
Likewise. Thanks a ton, Lauren. I really appreciate it.